Hello and welcome to the Capital Games Podcast. I'm the Wiz.
And I'm Zero.
Zero. You did something. It took you a couple weeks to get there. I want to be the first to say I'm proud of you. I am. Deeply, deeply. And what you did was you finally got to the Sunbreak content in Monster Hunter Rise. So without further ado, why don't you go ahead and talk about Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak for us?
So, Sunbreak, for those who don't know, the requirement to get there is to get to Hunter Rank 7, and then to do pretty much the required Hunter Rank 7 quests to get to the final monster fight, where you end up going up against a really massive dragon, and it's kind of an arena-style fight where you have to jump onto platforms, use cannons, and just really DPS down the boss monsters, and it's pretty easy as long as you've got a pretty coordinated group that knows what to do. So it shouldn't be too hard, especially if you open up your lobby to players worldwide, because likely you'll get Japanese players that'll help you out. Yeah. So the intro is a little slow because it's kind of a review on just the Monster Hunter mechanics, but on top of a light review of the mechanics, you get a great introduction into one of the most fun mechanics that I've just been having a blast with, and that's the switch skill mechanic. And it's great because you can basically have two move sets on tap, and then you can swap to them on the fly depending on the situation and if it warrants it. And what makes it so fun is on top of the switch skill technique, you also have the ability to do a switch skill dodge. So if you're in the middle of switching a skill, after you switch the skill, you'll immediately do a dodge, which is great, because I've had moments where just a really agile monster is just moving a little bit faster than I'd like it to, so I end up having to switch to my secondary skill set for the insect glaive, and then typically while I'm doing the switch, the monster ends up trying to charge me for doing a skill swap, so the evasion at the end just makes it so much sweeter, and it feels so good to pull it off. And all in all, that's been a lot of fun for me, but granted, with the mention that the introduction's a little slow because they're sort of kind of reviewing mechanics with you, they do take you back to Kamara for a little bit, but what makes it interesting is when they do sort of the skill review for these couple of intro quests for the master rank, you encounter monsters that you've fought before from the base Rise game, but a lot of these monsters have gotten additional patterns and additional moves, so it mixes up the game a little bit, and I've actually found some of the fights to be a little bit more fun due to the extra challenge. So if you're into just hunting monsters and having a little bit more of a challenge, it makes the brunt of kind of getting a skill review a little bit less boring. But after the skill review, the game sort of drops you in and goes, okay, so yeah, we got monsters from the kingdoms that are going weird, so if you can help us kind of do that, we'll also help Kamara's problem with these weird kingdom monsters sort of invading into the Kamara territories and everything, and from there, just the game sort of turns you loose and everything. And on top of that, there's also the survey quests that you can do, and those are neat because you've also got NPCs that you can go on adventures with. And on top of that, there are also follower quests, and follower quests are neat because they let you essentially go on a hunt with one of the NPC characters, but it's worth doing because by completing these follower quests, your followers level up and they become stronger. That way you can take them onto the survey quest, not have to worry about them being knocked out constantly. And for anyone who's worried about these NPCs possibly dying too much, Capcom has done a great thing where the deaths of the or rather, the faintings of your NPC followers do not count against you.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good thing, because that was the one thing I was worried about when you mentioned that to me, that you get followers with you, or you get AI companions. It was like, ugh, if they die all the time, I don't want them using my feints. But that's a good thing that they I took that out.
Yeah, and additionally, what kind of makes it real fun with the followers is there are some story quests that you can open multiplayer lobbies with, and some of them do have followers, and the followers do stick around even if you have more players stack up on you. So literally, you can have a lobby with 4 players plus the story-related follower NPC with you for a grand total of 5 total characters just wailing on a monster, and it is just such a neat thing to see.
So,
But
okay, have you been playing multiplayer on it at all, or has that been mostly single player? Because if it's just been single player, that's actually pretty good, because a lot of people, when they play that game, they don't like the fact they have to play single player mode on that.
I've mostly been playing multiplayer, mostly because just the help of the Japanese player community has just been excellent. Just people who just know what they're doing and who know how to optimize the strategies to just get the boss monsters knocked out very quickly, which is great, especially since with the heat wave that's going on in my area, just my gaming time is a little bit limited from how warm my home is.
I mean, when I was playing Rise, I think it was last year when it came out, I was always surprised with how friendly the Japanese players are, and two, again, how capable they are playing it. I think this game, since World becoming online like it is, has been pretty much a big boon and a big deal for the series, because you get these really friendly players who, I guess, love the game so much that they play it correctly and they help you out. So that's excellent. That's really good.
As far as the followers go, for the story quest and everything, if you choose just to go with a solo lobby, I have not checked to see if you could take your followers with you. But if you can, then that'd be kind of neat. But if you can't, then you're pretty much just alone with your Palico and your Palamute.
Well, it looks like next pay I'm going to get this expansion, and I'm probably going to have to do what you did and work myself way back up to 7. So, but that's good. If it's worth, it was $40, right? The expansion?
Yeah, $40 for just the base expansion, and then I think they have like a digital deluxe version of it. If you want like the extra costume goodies and everything, then there's that. So
yeah.
But yeah, if you're just interested in just the expansion alone, $40 is great, and it's kind of like what I've told my personal Discord community, that if anyone needs help getting to Sunbreak, I don't mind just grouping up and lobbying up just to knock this stuff out, because I just have so much fun playing Rise right now that it's just a hoot.
Yeah, like when I played World, they would always have these quests where, in order to gain, I think it was armor spheres, you have to defeat, like, I guess the lesser monsters in an area or something. And I had no problem doing that whatsoever, using my new weapons against these old monsters, because the battles are so much fun. And it took until World for me to get into the game, but when it happened, man, did it click! Like, it felt so good playing it. So yeah, I can't wait to get the expansion and try it for myself. That's great.
I think really just overall, I've just been having fun with the game and everything. I went a little crazier than most. The minute the limited edition pre-order came up with the Malzeno amiibo, it was just one of those things that I was just like, I gotta have it. I freaking love the Monster Hunter Rise amiibos. I have the Magnamalo, the Palamute, and the Palico in ninja garb and everything, and they just look so good. And when I saw the Malzeno amiibo, I was like, oh man, I gotta have that. So I was lucky that I was able to get my pre-order in for the limited edition, and I've been happy with it.
So what does the amiibo do when you put it into the game?
For the first time scan, you actually get a special costume set that's themed after the Malzeno.
Okay.
And it's kind of similar to the Magnamalo amiibo, if I remember correctly. I believe it just gave you like some special cosmetic stuff.
Okay.
I forget.
Okay. Here's a question for you, since we talk about business a lot in this. Do you think amiibos make a lot of money for Nintendo? Because after Smash Brothers, I don't hear them making a lot of amiibos anymore. I wonder if they're still selling well, because I know that they wanted to get amiibos for all the characters in Smash Brothers. Like, I bought Marth when it first came out, and that was really the only one I was interested in. But yeah, I personally, after the whole craze of Toys to Life died, I don't see how these are selling very well. Are they selling well?
I presume not. Personally, I think amiibos are a very low margin item, especially because of the fact that just one, you've got to pay for the molds and everything to produce these and whatnot.
Yeah.
So there's that, and then of course there's the time cost of having to program the NFC chips to produce the character data that they're supposed to be and everything. So yeah, I don't think that they're a high margin item, but I could be dead wrong, and it could just be, well, it's literally just plastic and a cheap NFC chip that probably costs like Nintendo 4 or 5 cents per chip, and they order by like the thousands or the millions of them. So
Yeah.
not that big a deal.
I mean, I remember when Skylanders came out, that those made really good sales, and the profit margins weren't exactly low. So I would imagine for every one that they're making, it's probably a good amount of money. But yeah, at this point, since they're not really utilizing them that much in all games, I would assume it's just a collector's item that they just make a limited quantity and go from there. Like, I don't foresee them doing much more of this, to be completely honest. So
Yeah. Honestly, though, just I'm not the biggest amiibo collector. I think really just the only ones that I've really gone really hard into collecting were the Zelda ones, but that's mostly because I love the Zelda stuff.
okay.
And I think a couple of the Fire Emblem ones that I've picked up as well too, but yeah, just mostly it's either Fire Emblem, Zelda, or Metroid have been my primary focuses on stuff, and then of course just when I saw how nice the Monster Hunter Rise amiibos were, I was just like, nope, I can't resist.
Yeah. I mean, they are quality. They don't look crappy to me. Except for the one where it looked like Link was peeing out of his pants. They are quality figurines, so to have them to like display them, it's not a bad thing. I enjoy them. I mean, I used to be big into Skylanders, because I still have tons of Skylander figures. My God. And, of course, they're not getting touched because there's no longer a Skylanders game anymore. So,
Yeah.
Okay. We'll move on. For the news this week, the first thing we'll talk about, we don't talk about game engines too much on the podcast, and we probably should get into a deep dive about game engines and how the business of them works. But one engine got into the news this week, and that's Unity. And it got into the news not because of their capabilities technology-wise. It's because their boss said a no-no, essentially. John Riccitello, former CEO of EA, who is now the CEO of Unity, basically had a interview. I forget what website. I should have checked, but he had an interview with a website. I think it was pocketgamer.net, I think it was.
Yeah, I believe it was Pocket Gamer.
Okay. And he talked a bunch about things about the industry, but this one quote got this one thing he said is what caused all the problems. Basically, he said, and I'll paraphrase, developers who are not monetizing their games are fucking idiots. He then a day later, walked it back, sort of, and apologized and said that he would do better when it comes to, well, whatever it meant. I don't know exactly what he meant by do better, but anyway. Zero, you mentioned this to me when it happened. What were your thoughts about John Riccitello's quotes about developers who don't monetize their games?
Well, this wasn't really a good look, considering that on July 13th, Unity had announced that they would be merging with ironSource. And this is probably going to sound like me speaking with my IT worker cap, but ironSource has been known to be just an absolutely wretched company. Just they make really, really deceptive programs that will the type that you would probably bump into every once in a while from like a bad site covered in spyware and shit, where it probably tells you that you've got a virus on your computer and you need to install this program and buy this needless subscription to make sure that your computer's protected, while it's just not doing anything but just bilking you for cash. So ironSource has not really had a great reputation, but apparently the purchase was, or the merger was motivated because of the fact that ironSource has some user analytics that apparently John Riccitello thinks would be useful to Unity. So it was bad enough that that purchase happened, and you have a whole bunch of indie developers going, wow, you're merging with a malware company? I'm not sure I really want to continue developing in Unity anymore. And then here we are with this Pocket Gamer interview, and when I had read this part of the interview, I was just floored by this. So the question that Pocket Gamer had asked during the interview was, implementing monetization earlier in the process and conversation is certainly an angle that has seen some pushback from some developers. And he replies with, Ferrari and some of the other high-end car manufacturers still use clay in carving knives. It's a small portion of the gaming industry that works that way, and some of these people are my favorite people in the world to fight with. They are the most beautiful and pure, brilliant people. They're also some of the biggest fucking idiots. So he says that, and then he goes into just basically just why developers should be monetizing, and if they're not monetizing, they're basically leaving money on the table.
Yeah.
And it was just really, really bad because, of course, some high-profile developers who did use Unity to develop their games, notably Ben Esposito of Angel Matrix, the guy behind Donut County, and the more recent release of Neon White. He had made Apple's Donut County in Unity back in 2018, and then pretty much he kind of fired back at Riccitello's little quote saying, but according to their CEO, I'm a big fucking idiot for not making Whole.io a free-to-play, not making Whole.io the free-to-play game that ripped off my game Donut County.
Yeah.
And for those not familiar, Whole.io had a whole bunch of really scummy monetizations while ripping off the Donut County idea. But yeah, just when I saw this quote, I was like, ooh, wow, holy shit. How about saying the quiet part out loud, why don't you?
and it's funny how in order to couch, because he knew before he said the quote, he was going to say something that was going to piss people off. And he couched the quote in what I think he thought was a good thing, like Ferrari, was it Ferrari still makes their cars with clay and knives, which is a backwards compliment because it's basically saying, yeah, people do outdated things too that are not really cost effective. which is fine, I guess. Is pretty much what he was saying. But when I heard the quote, like, it was really saying, you're right, it was saying the quiet part out loud. But on the other hand, it also sounded like, God damn it, these people could be making me more money, and they're choosing not to, is what it sounded like to me. Because and we don't know the business practices and the contracts that they give out to Unity developers when it comes to making their games. But the way it sounded like to me was Riccitello was annoyed that there are some developers who are honestly making good games, but if they would just monetize it the way that others do, he could make more money off those games. It wasn't really a, I'm being a good guy by telling you you're leaving money off the table. It is, you could be making more money for me if you would actually just do this with my engine, and you're not doing it. So that's where it sounded more along the lines of frustration than it really sounded like a guy who was basically saying, guys, you could make more money. I'm just saying, I'm your old pal Riccitello, So when I read that quote, I was like, ugh. He's not happy with some people, which I doubt this is going to lead to him losing customers or losing developers, really. Because from what I know of Unity, it's a very robust and very flexible engine, especially for mobile developers. Because I don't see them mobile developers saying, "Oh, that's it, I'm going to Epic." Like, they're not going to do that. They're gonna go ahead.
The problem with Unity has been that they've basically sort of been chasing the fame that Epic has in all the wrong ways, and not listening to their developer community about features that should be in Unity but are not. Because when I was kind of poking around the independent developer community, a lot of people in those communities had said, just when I find an engine that works better than Unity, fuck this. I'm getting the fuck out of Unity. I'm porting my project to something else. I don't fucking care if I have to start the fuck over in a brand new engine. If I can give the finger to Riccitello and say, fuck you for saying that all of us who choose not to monetize are basically idiots, then yeah, have fun when you have nobody to develop on your engine. And then there was talk that there was a major feature project that was in the form of a game that the internal Unity team was developing, and it was going to showcase all the cool stuff that the engine can do and be sort of like a showcase piece for any developers who are trying to consider engines on which one they would go to. And I believe that project has been canceled, which isn't great because that also sort of fed into the lack of confidence from a lot of the indie developers going, wow, so this showcase project to show all the possible stuff we can do with Unity, you're just gonna fucking pull the plug and kill it? Wow, that's a real fucking shame.
So what do you mean, like, they killed it? They basically said that it's not worth the time? Or is this one of those, well, because we pissed people off, we're not gonna, like... I'm not understanding exactly.
I think it was. They were just like. I'm trying to remember. I may have to dig it up real quick. But I believe it was just the fact that they ended up just pulling the plug on the project because they didn't think the money was worth it to continue on with this project, even though this would have been sort of something to show the world, hey, here's all the cool stuff Unity can do. And I believe it showcased some of the features that devs had been complaining about, saying, hey, we want Unity to be able to do all this new stuff. And this would have been the one project to show it off. Mm-hmm. And I believe they just pulled the plug because they were just like, yeah, we don't see the money in it. And so, yeah, it's just been really, really strange with all the stuff that that's been going on. And Unity also purchased Weta Workshops because they wanted to get into the movie industry, kind of like how Unreal Engine's being used in some movie productions to do CG work and everything.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just Unity hasn't really been in a great place currently, and just it's more this quote and the merger with Iron Source has just been nothing short of a clusterfuck.
Yeah, apparently you're saying their business practices has not been too great when it comes to expansion. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, they just
Okay.
seem like that they've just been sort of spreading themselves way too thin in hopes that they can try to capitalize on what Epic's doing, especially the Weta Workshops purchase. That one was really strange. I was just like, okay, I get it. Weta Workshops, super big prop shop for Hollywood and everything. I get it, but you guys really need to focus on your business stuff because it's all over the goddamn place. And of course, just here we are. Oh well, we need metrics because Unreal's got some fantastic metrics tracking. Unity needs that too.
Huh. Okay, so they're me tooing everything. Is basically.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, that's what it was.
Okay.
Gigaya, the Unity in-house project. That's what it was named.
Okay. Unity, is it the number one mobile development kit, or is it like what are the other mobile development kits? Because I know Unity has had some. They've had some console games. So, but I know
Yeah.
Unity is.
Recently, the Klonoa HD collection was actually completely built in Unity.
Okay. I mean, I'm not saying that they don't do development on consoles. I know they do, but it's more often I see Unity on game engines when it comes to mobile than I do with console development. That's more Unreal and more Sprite Kit and stuff like that. See, here's the thing. I know these developers are pissed and they feel insulted for the boss of Unity to say that, but do they have other places to go? I mean, are they really gonna they're gonna eat the costs of getting another engine and redoing their entire assets just because the boss said something stupid? I don't see that. I hear a lot of them saying they're going to, which a lot of people tend to do when they're angry. But I think most of them will deep down look at their bottom line and will say, I can't afford to do this. So for now, I got to stay with Unity. And then Unity should come in and say, hey, I know we fucked up. We're sorry. How about we redo the contract and we give you better terms. We give you, let's say, we knock off 2% of the fees when it comes to your next game or whatever, like something like that. Like they need to do, I guess, an apology tour to their biggest company, the biggest companies that use their engines, and pretty much say, yeah, we fucked up. We're sorry. So here's a little thank you for having business with us. Please stick with us. We're sorry, and just smooth things over from there. I think that's what we're gonna basically see. We're probably not gonna see because it's gonna be kept quiet, but I think that's what's gonna end up happening is developers are gonna say, yeah, I'd like to, but I can't because that's just not feasible when it comes to my business. And then, or Unity comes in and says, hey, we fucked up. Here, let's just redo our terms. We'll make it better for you so you can stay. I think that's what's going to end up happening.
Yeah, I know most of the studios that have said that they're just completely jumping off of Unity have mostly been independent studios.
Yeah, and I can understand that, but don't these development kits cost money to actually, or are these one of those you get them free, but when you release the game, they get a percentage of your sales?
So with Unity, I believe it's I'm not 100% sure on this. I'd have to really take a look at it, but I think the cost of entry is really low. But if you become like a like multi-million copy seller, then at that point they sort of kind of renegotiate the terms and say, "Hey, so your game just kind of skyrocketed to stardom and you've made all this cash. How about we talk a little bit more serious about, just a more serious sort of partnership and everything." And
Okay.
at that point, the price increases. But I know a lot of the independent studios that I have seen making a fuss about this have said that they are looking towards Unreal, because Unreal, they do provide pretty much a model where you get the development kit for free, but if you hit a certain sales benchmark, then they charge you a a certain amount, and then once you hit to the multi-million sort of portion, then they start talking in the percentages and things like that.
I wonder how they actually get those metrics, because if it's a company that is not publicly traded or not required to actually share your sales, how are they going to get those metrics? Like that's a question I have. I'm at the Unity store right now, and I'm looking at plans and pricing. Individual for students and personal use, it's free, and they have a Unity. You have a Unity Learn, which is a learning on-demand learning platform. For teams, if you get Unity Plus, it's $400 a year per seat. So I guess that's per person, I think. I might
Yeah.
be wrong. Or you can get Unity Pro, which is $1,800 a year per seat, and it has all these perks like customization of the splash screen, the latest version of Unity, which I would hope that you'd get that with any version, but okay. Priority customer service, cloud diagnostics, over 300 hours of personal training available, custom options, technical support, and then if you're a large corporation, it's $2,500 a year for industrial collection per seat. And then if for enterprise, which is for a much larger corporation or organization, it's $4,000 a month per 20 seats. I'm looking at this, and let's say you are a small development studio that I guess has 10 employees. You're spending $18,000 a year on Unity Pro, which you're going to get Unity Pro if you're going to do this right. And then if it costs, let's say, 3 years to develop your game, that's $54,000. So like I said, I don't see like a small studio looking at their numbers going, we just sunk $54,000 into this development thing. Am I really going to throw it all away because John Riccitello was an asshole? I don't see that happening. Maybe after they're done and they make their sales and everything, they could go and do that. But by that point, I can see like Unity coming in and say, hey, those are the rates that we advertise, but we could give you better rates. Why don't we do X rate for this amount of years for this amount of seats and then go there? Why don't we do that? And then the whole thing is wiped off clean. I mean, I get that people are insulted and pissed by this, but I hate to tell this to you, but when you deal in business, there's people who are assholes. And the best thing you can do is utilize them being an asshole by saying, yeah, I don't like what you said, therefore I don't think I want to use your business anymore unless you make it worth my while. That's the smart thing to do. Not to be like, oh, I'm just throwing this away. Like, no, you improve your deal, you improve your terms, and then go from there. I think that's what smart studios are going to do, is going to look at this and go, hey, you know what? I don't like what you said. It's clear that you're not supportive of my needs, so I'm going elsewhere. Like, whoa, 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 whoa. Okay.
Yeah.
We're very supportive of what you do. You don't pay no attention to what he said. He was wrong in that, and we agree with you there. So why don't we do this? Why don't we, instead of making it 2,400 a seat, why don't we do 2,000 a seat? How's that? We appreciate your business. We appreciate what you do with our engine. Let us show more how we appreciate you. 2,000 a seat. How's that sound? Great. Thanks. And there you go. That's all you gotta do.
Yeah, that, or I imagine Unreal's probably reaching out to some of these
yes,
high-profile Unity developers and are like, "Hey, how about first year dev is free, and yeah, just ditch the zero, get with a hero, and then of course just some of these studios just making the jump, just because someone from Epic got real clever and kind of made a nice little sweetheart deal to just get out of using Unity. So I would imagine that there's probably stuff like that happening behind the scenes, but any of the studios that do have the luxury of just immediately dropping and swapping over, I imagine either they're real small and haven't put too much money into Unity, or excuse me, or they have the money and luxury to be able to just ditch Unity and just go, nope, fuck this, we're just going to go to another engine, and that's going to be it.
Right, and if you're the latter, you don't say a damn thing, and then you play hardball with both Unity and with Epic, and you say to Unity, I don't like what you said, and I got developers who are not happy with what you said, so we have to leave just to save face. And then they pull out all the business stops and start lowering the cost and making the incentives a lot better for you. And that's what you do. You don't go on Twitter and just spout out like that. As, oh, I'm going to puff up my chest and say, no, you don't do that. If you're smart with business, you threaten to do it and then say to the people, that the person who did wrong, yeah, I'm not happy, so we're going elsewhere. Unless you make it worth my while. And then you be smart and you do that. You don't spout out, because once you spout out, then you're going to have the other one saying, okay, if they're going to do it, let's just wait, because they're just going to go to our platform anyway, so why should we? So, yeah. But you're right. If it's people, and if it's the former, Unity's not going to care. They're going to be like, oh, well, they're small potatoes who either haven't made a lot of sales or are just starting, so we didn't lose much. If it's the big ones, Unity will step in and say, we'll make it worth your while. We're sorry. Okay, here. And that's it. No one's losing from this, is what I'm saying. I think, and anything except for Unity, really. I mean, they're going to lose something out of this. But developers, if they're smart, can turn this into a boon and basically get better terms, if they're smart.
I think really it'll be interesting to see how things go for Unity, because I know that there are already articles starting to pop up saying that Unity's valuation is going down because of this whole Iron Source deal, and then also the fallout from some of these devs who have gone public saying, yep, fuck this, I'm ditching Unity and I'm going to Unreal, or I'm going to some other engine that works better for my needs or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, and if that truly is what they're going to do, like all to them, I would not be the slightest bit surprised if we come back to this next year and be like, oh yeah, remember what John Riccitello said? Look back at those people who said all those things, and they're still in Unity because they either got better terms or they realized, oh, that's a lot of work. We better not. So, normally we don't talk about games that are announced, Zero, because we can't really glean anything business-wise off of them, except that, hey, this is announced, this is what people think, and that's not really an interesting story most times. We're making an exception this one time, and the reason why is because of how unique the studio is. What we're talking about is oh god, I forgot their name. Digital
Extremes.
Good god. Maybe you should host this, because you remember this faster than I do.
Yeah. So
okay, go ahead, go host it. I'll just say
so this weekend was Digital Extreme's Warframe-focused convention, TennoCon. So most people who are familiar with Warframe or are ingrained in just Warframe in general, they know this to be sort of the mega event for Warframe, where the future of the game is basically talked about, things like expansions and cool stuff that's going to be added into the game. It's all pretty much going to be out right in front and just in full display. This year was a little different because they revealed a trailer, but the trailer wasn't in a sci-fi realm. It was in a high fantasy style realm. And of course, everyone was just kind of confused by this. And then you get to the end, and of course, some people who are watching this on Twitch had said that pretty much Twitch chat just kind of went kind of the joke route and going, watch, it's gonna be a Dark Souls inspired Warframe game. It's gonna be called Souls Frame, and then of course the title card comes up in it, and the title is literally Soul Frame. So just everyone sort of went ballistic over this because just brand new game being announced by Digital Extremes, and no one really expected just a new game to come out of TennoCon, because again, normally this is just Warframe focused information. Just they really don't talk about much else.
Yeah.
So it was really interesting because during this announcement there was also a huge personnel shakeup. Steve Sinclair and some folks that work with Steve are apparently stepping down from their positions with the Warframe team to move on to the Soulframe project. But in the absence of Steve Sinclair being the creative director for Warframe, there was a huge promotion for someone who's been very amazing for the Warframe community, and that's community manager Rebecca Ford. She is now stepping into the creative director role for Warframe. Mm-hmm. So just humongous promotion for her. And for anyone who doesn't know her backstory, she started her career with Digital Extremes as an intern in college, and then became the community manager. And then for her to go from community manager to creative director, yeah, this is a humongous step for her. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, just for me, really the more curious and interesting part was just this whole personnel shakeup that happened, right, and everything.
Okay, so they announced the new game. They said they're continuing development on Warframe, but let's be honest here. Warframe is probably going to wind down at a certain point. When they announced Soulframe, the first thing I thought about was, wait a minute, how much money does this game make? And it's impressive. They made I'm looking at their stats right now. In 2018, they made $180.5 million in revenue and $175 million in 2019. And for a free-to-play game that honestly hasn't been graphically updated that much since 2016, that's still pretty good. And Warframe is a good-looking game, I will say. But in 2020, the revenue went down 20%. And it's been steadily declining since. So this probably was around, like, I would say in 2019, they were expecting the revenue to go down, and which is why they started development on Soulframe. When I looked at the trailer, immediately I was like, oh, they're still, it seems like they're still doing Warframe things in this engine. So I'm curious to what different they will do in it. But I don't know if this will, like, the people who like Warframe like I would say they like the customization and the different weapons and the looks of the Tennos. They're Tennos, right? That's what they're, oh no, they're Warframes. Good God. The Tennos are the people inside the Warframes. And Anyway, but yeah, like the people who enjoy Warframe really got into it and dug the customization, the different weapons and how different they are. I don't know exactly how you can do that in a high fantasy setting. So my question is, what is this game? How will it play? And what's, of course, going to be their monetization, and how are they going to do that? Because for those who don't know, with Warframe, you have the option of grinding to get parts to build specific weapons, or in the cases of primes, prime weapons and prime Warframes, getting these specific items that then you can gamble to get those specific parts to make those weapons and Warframes, or you can use platinum, which is their currency, to purchase those items right off the marketplace. So that's how they do their monetization.
Yep, and what makes the platinum monetization interesting is, for those who apparently have no interest in purchasing platinum, they do allow players to make trades with other players to earn platinum. So let's say you decide to go completely free to play, and you're just farming up parts for whatever the new prime is at the moment that you're playing, and you just end up listing a bunch of primes for sale, and people start paying you platinum out the nose, then yeah, technically that platinum is as good to spend as if you bought it with cash and everything.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of people who do that in that game, who essentially farm the hell out of, or they're called relics. They farm the hell out of relics to get parts, to then sell them on the marketplace to get platinum, and then I guess they use that platinum to purchase those parts or Warframes or whatever, or they get cosmetics or whatever. I mean, what we're not talking about is the gameplay, which actually is really solid and feels good when you play it. So there's that. The one issue that Warframe has still, and has always had, because the way they developed it in the beginning was so slapshot that they just did not do a good job with this. It is pretty hard to get into if you're a new player, and it's hard to get into if you're a returning player. I know, Zero, you played for a couple of years, right?
Yeah. I want to say from 2016 until about 2018-ish.
Mm-hmm. I played it on PlayStation 4 a year after it came out to about 2019. And the reason why I remember this, because the first anniversary was, they gave you the Dex Cerebus item, and the Dex Cerebus was a great gun, and I loved using it, and I leveled it up. Like, that's another thing with Warframe. You level up everything in the game. So you can level up your guns, your melee, your handguns, and then you use mods to modify the guns and the weapons to do different things. So, but what you can then do is you can, what's called forma the guns, or forma the weapons, to where you can give them a specific, I guess, I forget what they're called, but
polarities.
Polarities. They're signs. So each mod has a sign. So if you would put the polarity, if you forma it to a certain polarity, and you put that on a certain mod, it cuts the mod cost in half, which makes you able to get more mods, which makes the gun more powerful and makes them do more interesting things. So, like, it really hits that ARPG thing where you're leveling up to get more powers, to make more interesting builds. And it hit that note really well, Warframe, to where I would, honestly, at some points, I would do the same missions over and over again just so I can get different mods for my guns, so they can do different things and cooler things. Like, it was really addictive and a lot of fun to play. So, yeah, Warframe is what Destiny should have been to me. how I look at it, because I look at Warframe and say Warframe's a better game than Destiny is my opinion. But yeah,
I will say it's kind of funny with regards to just the earnings numbers sort of falling. Starting in and around 2020, and it's been documented by a few of the unofficial Warframe content creators like Riccitello and Sabuchi and everything. But what seems to be the cycle, and this has been the case ever since 2018, is that Warframe will always peak the day that the new expansion comes out for whatever the current story chapter of the game is. Players will just rip through it, get it done, and then after that, boom, they drop off and go, okay, I'm done. I don't really see much reason to continue playing this, nor do I see much reason to spend platinum and spend money to get platinum and buy more stuff. So I'm done. I will see you guys next time when you've got the next Prime out. Maybe grind for a little bit. And even some people don't even come back to grind primes, or let alone even buy additional primes. So just there's always a player spike right when the new expansion or story chapter drops, and then just after that, it sort of just tapers off. And it just seems to be the problem that they've had since 2018. And if my memory serves me correctly, 2018 wasn't a great year for Warframe because the game was in a really strange place. Just things weren't balanced right. The grind for some of the current stuff during 2018 was just way, way, way too high for most people. So a lot of people had just quit out of frustration, me included, where I was just like, wow, that's a really cool, interesting thing, but good lord, I don't have the time and patience to grind for that, and I'm just in a tough financial situation, so I just don't have the money to buy almost $60-$70 in platinum just to go ahead and skip this part of the grind.
And the packs that they would use to incentivize you to buy, I would say the primes, were really expensive. Like they would have the accessories that would cost something different, and then I think they would have the actual prime items be like more expensive. I think they're like $100. And they would come up with new primes stuff like every 3 months. Am I right on that? 3 months?
No, every 6.
Every 6. Okay. So yeah. Well, like I mentioned, like this is a really solid game, but you need somebody to shepherd you into the game to basically say this is what you need to do. This is the first thing you should be doing when you play the game, because the game just doesn't do it. Like they don't give you a quest line, I would say, to say, okay, you need to get to here, so you can do this thing first. So do these missions first, then do this, and then you can start doing this. Like Warframe doesn't do that really in the game, which some might say, hey, that's not bad. It means you can just do things on your own. Yeah, but then you find yourself grinding for no reason whatsoever, and it's not fun.
And what really makes it sad is the fact that I believe it was TennoCon 2018. Rebecca Ford had made the announcement that they would be making a project called the new player experience, which would completely revise the intro to the game and make things a little bit more clear on which missions to do, how to progress forward in the game and everything. But much like a lot of the other projects that they've revealed for the TennoCon presentations, and full disclaimer, I still have a very, very, very big soft spot for Warframe. I love the folks over at Digital Extremes because they just seem like a fun group of people. But if there's one thing that breaks my heart so much, it's that they always without fail, introduce something that looks so neat during TennoCon, and then when it actually launches, it's just a giant clusterfuck.
Yeah.
It's just either completely unbalanced, systems are out of tune and out of whack, just a whole bunch of miscellaneous problems will just kind of pop up with whatever they do, and then of course the players will gripe and complain and say, hey, this thing is really underwhelming, really broken, just we've got issues with it. And then it's, oh my god, we're so sorry, we'll work on it, we'll return and try to clean this up. And then they sort of halfway bandage it, and then it's on to the next project, on to the next project, on to the next project. And unfortunately, this whole cycle, I think, was another reason that burned a lot of players out right around 2018, and just you had players sort of dropping off. And it's a real damn shame because I love Warframe. I love introducing people to it when they say that they're interested, but dear God, just the fact that they sort of, I guess, for lack of a better way of putting it, they sort of gave up on this new player experience project. Just you have to have a Sherpa or a shepherd sort of guide you through the early game, and it's really sad because just the little bit that they showed off of the new player experience, it was so cool. I was just like, oh my god, cool. So there's a brand new story on how you become the pilot of a Warframe, and there's a whole new intro cinematic now. This is so freaking cool. I hope they do more with this, and it was really neat because just with this new introduction mission that you get tossed into and everything, when you get to the point where you pick your Warframes, they've got like this awesome looking screen. All three Warframes are on the screen, and when you mouse over them, it shows you like a sample of all their skills and what this particular Warframe excels at. Just it looks so freaking slick, and just made so much more sense for anyone who was a new player trying to get into it. And I think they got that part of the intro done, but they never really fleshed out the rest of the new player experience project, and it just breaks my heart because I'm just like, this would have been a grand opportunity to just revise the early game, make sure that new players get what the hell they're doing, and then from there just build this out and get it to a point that after the players get through the bulk of the new player experience intro missions, at that point the Lotus kind of turns you loose and says, okay, so you're free to go wherever you want, but if you want to progress story chapters, follow this particular objective marker. If you want to do a side quest, follow this other objective marker, and go absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
And just a golden opportunity that was squandered, and just I'm not really surprised that just the growth of the game has likely slowed down. At least that's my speculation on it.
Probably. You're probably right on that. Okay. Well, like we've mentioned, it's a really good game, but it is unfortunate what they've done to this game. Like, playing the game is a lot of fun, but you're right. It's a game that you definitely need somebody to pretty much guide you through, I would say, the first 20 hours of the game. Is that fair?
20 to 60, because I know I had a really, really good pair of Warframe players that are in my Discord server, and these two players, they've been with the game since it launched, and specifically since it launched on PC. So they have seen the systems change and everything, and they probably gave me at least 60 hours worth of guidance, if not more. And it was after all their guidance, I finally was able to put together just how to build my Warframes out to my playstyle, and just how to proceed with the missions in a efficient way if I wanted to focus on the story and everything.
Yeah. Okay, so we We've gotten through Warframe, but this is about Soulframe, the game that they announced. So Digital Extremes is partnering with a company called Airship Syndicate. Now, these guys have done good games. They did Ruined King, a League of Legends story, Darksiders Genesis, which I think got some favorable reviews. And I know Battle Chasers Nightwar got some good reviews too. My question is, what exactly are they doing with Soulframe? Because these are all very small, well, not very, well, they're small games, and they're mostly either RPGs or ARPGs. So what exactly are they bringing to Soulframe in this? Because I saw that announcement, I'm like, that's kind of weird. What could they be doing on this?
My guess is probably building the underlying systems of Soulframe. At least that's my take on it. Especially since a lot of their experience seems to be in RPGs and ARPGs.
Yeah.
Some people are inferring, at least from the little short trailer that was released this weekend, that Soulframe may focus on gaining the souls of animals to sort of help you out and everything. Mostly from just the heavy focus on the animals that rescue you and assist you and everything. So maybe that's where just the concept of the game is going to be more on folks like Steve Sinclair and some of the other Digital Extreme staff, and then maybe sort of building the underpinning systems is going to be what Airships Syndicate is doing. It's just way too early to tell, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, they will be formally announcing this, or I guess what it sounds like they're going to show off gameplay at the Game Awards this year. They specifically said they're going to show more at the Game Awards. So if that's the case, my bet is summer of next year is probably when this is going to be ready.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because on top of all that, Digital Extremes announced that you could go to soulframe.com to reserve your Envoy name, and Envoy is, I guess, the Tenno equivalent, is what I'm guessing at. But ever since that announcement on this past Saturday, the Soulframe site has just been choked to death, because I just tried to check on it now, and yeah, it's just still coming up as a giant black page.
I'm on it right now, actually, but it looks like there's nothing here.
Yeah, the servers are just being suffocated to death at this point.
So yeah, we thought it would be an interesting thing to talk about, mainly because of the business aspects, that basically with Warframe going steadily down in profit, they announced a new game, and talk a little bit about that. So yeah, I guess the most we could say is if you're interested in Soulframe, maybe give Warframe a shot if you can find somebody to help you. But yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting what they come up with in the meantime when it comes to announcing this game. So, Zero, we talked a couple of weeks ago about Spain regulating loot boxes, or they're talking about doing it. Really, I think they were going to. Well, the UK government has pretty much stepped in after that and basically told the games industry that you guys need to regulate yourselves better, or else we will start to do something about it. That is essentially it from the conversation that they had. So, Zero, what do you feel about the UK government getting also involved in the possible regulation of loot boxes in gaming?
It's a bit interesting, especially since the UK government has sort of had, I believe, some of its lower houses talk about doing some research into loot boxes and everything, and they're finding the same conclusions as Spain. It's causing younger gamers to have compulsive buying habits, and it also seems like these loot box microtransactions are sort of a gateway drug into forming gambling habits, and that's really the conclusion that they're coming to. And pretty much they were saying that just they feel that that really things like loot boxes are just not great for children. They should be heavily restricted, and made a little better so that parents don't end up getting a bill because their children just don't understand that, hey, these little loot boxes, they cost actual money, because a lot of the complaints have been directed to the lower houses of government in the UK, basically from a lot of parents voicing concerns, going, hey, my kid just spent almost £500 on a bunch of FIFA Ultimate Team packs. You guys got to do something about this. You guys need to tell these game developers to secure the purchasing function a little better, because, yeah, my kid just completely went ham on my credit card and just purchased $500 worth of FIFA Ultimate Team packs or Overwatch loot boxes or whatever. And of course, Yuki, U-K-I-E, for those wondering about the spelling, these guys are kind of like the UK equivalent of the ESA. And of course, the Yuki has basically been lobbying to the UK government, basically going, oh, well, just, and at least from some of the PR statements that they put out, it almost kind of sounds like they're just calling the parents stupid by saying stuff like, oh, well, games and game systems already have ways to control spending. Just it's up to the parents to be able to responsibly tell their children how to be more responsible about microtransactions and stuff like that. So just sort of completely just pushing off any sort of discussion that loot boxes should be regulated, and basically is going, well, it's you as the parents who are stupid, so just learn how to set up your console to lock the transactions off, and maybe your kid won't spend $500 in FIFA Ultimate Team packs.
So basically, UKIE is not very effective at their job, is what it says. Nope.
So, and I believe Yuki has also put out a statement during this sort of call out to the games industry to say, hey, regulate yourselves, or we'll do the regulating for you. And I believe they came out with just a similar statement going, well, there's no need to regulate, because video games and video game systems have many ways to secure microtransactions from happening and everything. So it's been real funny to see them pull the usual, but yeah, just for them to come to a very similar conclusion to the Spanish government, that, hey, just this is really sort of an insidious way of allowing younger players to build bad habits to basically get into gambling, just in a very, very, very gamified way.
Right.
It was really interesting to see that that was the angle that they're going with, and there was also references made to the Norwegian report that 18 other countries in the UK got in on. So yeah, it's almost funny, because I know that both of us had sort of speculated that loot boxes are probably going to be the thing that gives up the ghost, because you're going to have countries trying to legislate them away, and it just looks like we're seeing the beginnings of that.
Yeah. UK has the 8th largest economy, so a lot of money to be made there. If they start regulating, or if they're threatening to regulate, that's going to cost a good amount of money to the gaming industry when it comes to regulating. We're already seeing a lot of different companies shying away from loot boxes and going towards battle passes. Essentially, I know that Activision Blizzard has taken away loot boxes in Overwatch to go for loot boxes. I'm gonna sense that that's gonna happen a lot more as time goes on. It's when the sports games start saying that they're gonna do that is when I would start to get really interested and say, oh, This is for real. Because if the sports games are doing it, because they have a built-in audience that clearly does not mind that they do this. At this point, they're getting threatened by the 8th largest economy to regulate yourselves or else. I still don't think it's enough for them to get scared to force them to do it. I think they'll start using slimy tactics like they did with Diablo Immortal in order to do that. Or let's say, I don't know, you can't purchase the packs. You can't purchase the packs directly with cash, and you can't do it with currency. But you have to do it through gameplay in a sort of way. But the only way to get good in the gameplay is by purchasing certain items in order to make your character run faster or shoot better or whatever. I foresee that being the tactic they use to say, oh, but you're not gambling in this because you're not paying for said item. You're earning those items. So it's technically not gambling. I could see some more scummy tactics happening before they really regulate this away.
Yeah, and I think really the case study for that would be the most recent Diablo Immortals, where the legendary crests are technically not loot boxes, but tickets to the rifts, which are basically the casino, and of course Blizzard being able to kind of weasel their way out of it and go, well, yeah, we're not selling loot boxes, we're selling you tickets to play a rift, and the rift prizes get better as long as you're playing great, and if you're not, then, well, you get crappy prizes. So therefore, ergo, these legendary crests are technically not loot boxes. It's a skill game. So yep. Yeah, you can buzz off with trying to nail us to the wall with a gambling and loot box accusation.
Right, because then you would have to then turn around and say, well, are you going to regulate crane games? Are you going to regulate the games that are on boardwalks and at what do you call it, at circuses that require skill? Are we going to do that now? Which regulators will turn around and be like, oh, we don't want to deal with that bullshit. So yeah, it really is going to turn into, let's see what scummy ways they can get away with this in the end. But it's good that governments are finally saying, okay, this needs to be regulated in some sort of way, but we're giving you your first shot first, game industry. Let's see what you do. And we'll see from there.
I'll just be real curious if the Asian countries start to follow suit, especially since just the Asian side of the world has pretty much sort of regulated things like loot boxes to basically be gambling, but they require that the developer make a set of odds to be visibly and openly findable. So if anyone wants to learn the odds of getting a certain character for like a mobile phone game, so something like, say, Fate Grand Order, then if Fate Grand Order is doing a special promotional banner where you get a higher chance of getting a character, then you can openly find out the odds of how easy or how hard it'll be to get a character. But I know in the case of China, just Blizzard has been pretty creative with evading the requirement that you have to make a disclaimer on the odds for loot boxes, because previously Overwatch was bound to that requirement, where if you bought any of the Overwatch loot boxes in China, then you could still go within the Overwatch client and find out the exact odds that you would get a certain a costume skin or just a banner or whatever. But they cleverly got around it by basically saying that you can buy a stack of currency.
Yeah.
And this currency would be used to buy costumes and stuff outright, but you would get a quote-unquote gift of loot boxes. And because the loot boxes were considered gifts, quote unquote, then they didn't have to just make a disclaimer on the odds, because they basically could push back to the Chinese government and say, well, they're not buying the loot boxes, they're buying currency, so they can use this currency to buy whatever costumes they want. They're just getting a free gift of loot boxes. It'll be interesting to see if there's any harder regulations that come out of Asia, because if so, then yeah, the world of video game monetization is going to get real interesting.
Yeah, I think we talked about this yesterday, where we basically said if they're going to go the route of just using battle passes, they're just going to make the battle passes more grindy, which would suck really bad.
Yeah.
But my thing was always, if you're going to make someone purchase a battle pass, don't put a timer on it. Just if you're going to make it battle pass free, then okay, I understand having the timer. But if you're saying, oh, but if you want the premium set, you're going to have to purchase the premium set, then by that point, you might as well make that battle pass available to them at all times, so they can get their items they paid for. Because if you're just going to, it would be unfair to then have them pay for the pass, and then they would have to grind that pass, but are unable to get the items they paid for. Like, I think that would be the best way to counteract that. But anyway, anything more to add?
No, other than I'm definitely going to be keeping a curious eye on just how monetization evolves from this point on, because yeah, it just seems like that our call that loot boxes will be legislated out is possibly in a slow roll, and it'll be really interesting to see what happens if and when just they get completely outlawed.
Yeah. All right, we'll move on. Another controversy that happened this week. There was a Reddit post that happened last week where customers of the game Fall Guys, which just went free to play, were saying they're having issues when it comes to previewing items they could purchase. What was happening is they would click on the item, and instead of showing a preview or showing a warning that, or saying, oh, if you want to purchase this, you click OK, it would just purchase the item automatically without any kind of warning that you're purchasing. So, and this was equally frustrating to players because there was no way to preview the item without, I think it was, you couldn't even preview the item without clicking it. So they would click to preview the item, and instead it would just purchase instead with no warning whatsoever. This was compounded because when they would go and complain to Mediatonic, the people who make Fall Guys, they would claim no responsibility, saying, hey, you clicked it, you bought it, that's it, you're done. And then a day later, I guess people complained enough to Epic, who owns Mediatonic, about what their issue was, and I believe what they decided was to refund everybody, and then they're gonna offer them a free skin that looks like a penis. Is that what happened? Yeah. So, yeah. Technically, everything's fine now, but we decided to talk about this because basically, Zero, this is a tactic we were kind of afraid of to start happening at certain times. We didn't think it was going to be Mediatonic who would be doing this. We thought it would be a scummy kind of developer who would try and shy away from going around, let's say, a console barrier that would say, hey, we're about to use your credit card to purchase this. Is this okay? But because of this was on PC, it was circumvented. Is that what happened?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if console wasn't affected, but I'll take it from what I was reading in the Fall Guys Reddit that it seemed that consoles weren't affected by this issue, that it was strictly just a PC thing. So, but yeah, just ultimately, it was just someone would just go, hey, that skin looks interesting from seeing the little icon in the store. and click on it to try to take a closer look at it, not knowing that by clicking on it, that it literally did the purchase. And what further compounded the issue was just the fact that the Mediatonic customer service agents were extremely rude about this.
Yeah.
Because there were reports just constantly coming out of the Fall Guys subreddit, just of people going, yeah, so I think there's a bug in the store. I was clicking on an item to look at it, and I didn't see any sort of confirmation prompt or anything, but all of a sudden, I got a notice that I purchased this game. Could you please look into this? And then the customer service agent would just come back with a really shitty reply. It went something to the tune of, oh, well, duh, dingus, you bought it. The system's working as intended. You're just an idiot. No refunds. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
Is essentially how the emails came off. And yeah, just and I know we had all mused about it in my Discord server and everything, that Tim Sweeney of Epic Games hates it when Epic is put into a bad spotlight. Oh, yeah. So it was, we were just kind of just musing to ourselves going, oh yeah, it's going to be likely that something is going to give, and this is going to turn around and do a 180 so fast.
Yeah. Tim Sweeney specifically hates looking anti-consumer and predatory, because he's been on a crusade against Apple, saying how predatory they are to developers. So he does not want to look like somebody who's pulling those same types of tactics that, let's say, that Apple was using on them. So yeah, the minute that I saw this controversy, I think people on our Discord pretty much said, yeah, just wait until someone texts Tim Sweeney about it, and then this will get changed. And sure enough, I think that's exactly what happened. I don't think he outwardly said, I'm going to take care of this. I think basically he got enough of a whiff of what was going on, called Mediatonic and said, you're fixing this, so fix it now. And essentially that's what happened. I'm surprised that a big developer had this issue, because even in smaller games, they have warnings, they have confirmations, and they have things, or if it's one press of a button and it's a purchase, they would say something on the store itself. Like, my nephew is playing Stumble Guys, okay? Do you know what Stumble Guys is?
No.
Okay, Stumble Guys is basically Fall Guys, but it's free to play, and it's on Steam. That's it. That's all it is. It's just Fall Guys, essentially. And with the Steam platform, when you want to purchase, let's say, microcurrency, you still have to go through the Steam authorization thing in order to make a purchase. So you're given warnings that, hey, you're about to make a purchase. Are you sure about this? And it's baked into the system. I don't understand how, basically on Epic's side, that I thought there was these warnings and these things, these authorizations that happened. So I don't get how. I specifically remember with Magic the Gathering that there were, unless that was just on Magic the Gathering servers.
I believe you have to implement it in game. Is the issue, and at least from what I'm understanding from the situation is, when they decided to move the game over to Epic and then transition the game into free to play, I guess they didn't really build out a purchase confirmation function, and it was just kind of, hey, store's already up, so whatever, it's fine. Oh, okay. And no one, I'm assuming maybe someone didn't test it and go, hey, let's make sure the store functions as intended when we go free to play. And I think that's probably what maybe kicked off this whole mess.
Yeah. I mean, this is just basically a lesson of get your processes up correctly as you should. because it just sounds like I'm gonna be charitable to Mediatonic. It sounds like they thought they had those processes up, and when it turned out that's not true, they kind of just doubled down and said, "No, we got it. We don't have an issue. You're clearly wrong. Go pound sand," you know. And then when someone finally got to, let's say, the higher up and said, "No, you have an issue here. You need to fix it," is when it finally got fixed. So, yeah, there's really not much to say about this other than, God, you might want to make sure those things are set up beforehand when you turn your game free to play. And I'm surprised this wasn't an issue for the first 2 weeks, because this was 2 weeks after it went free to play, right? Because I thought this would be something that would have been an instant issue.
Yeah, I'm assuming there was probably something neat or a unique costume that came about, and that's what got people going into the store. Oh. So I'm assuming that was probably the catalyst that just people may have saw a unique skin at the store and were just like, "Hey, I want to check this out," and then all of a sudden, "Oh shit, I bought it? What the hell? Yeah. I didn't get a confirmation prompt. What the shit?"
Yeah. I don't have anything more to add to this other than, yeah, that's pretty shitty, and it's good that they fixed it, but it shouldn't have been there in the first place. So, yeah.
Yeah, that, and they should have trained their customer service agents better, because literally just telling off your customer base going, "No, fuck you, you guys are idiots," that's not really a good look.
I mean, that's not exactly what they said, but I get the tone.
Essential gist of it, yeah.
It was the tone of, "Nah, you fucked up then," is pretty much what they said. And with customer service, as much as I've learned in customer service, if someone's complaining, and it literally takes a button press to just reverse the situation, press the damn button. It is basically what you do. So,
and I mean, if there are a whole bunch of cases, just tell the person, "Yo, okay, that's interesting. I'll forward this ticket up to be investigated, and just we'll see what's going on." Yeah. Just blanket flat out denying and just say, "Well, the system is working as intended. You're just an idiot. Bye."
Yeah.
Not a great way of doing things.
Yeah. All right, Zero. Well, that is the end of our news segment. And of course, before we go, I have a question for you.
All right.
Okay, so it was announced, I think today, was it? Today or yesterday, that the 3DS and Wii U shops are no longer going to accept cash as of the end of August. And by the end of March of next year, they're going to close down the shops entirely. So if you have games that you downloaded or you need to download, you might want to get them downloaded as soon as possible. So with that being said, my question for you is, what are your favorite 3DS or Wii U games? So why don't we start with a 3DS? What is your favorite 3DS game?
I'll probably start with the first game that I got on my 3DS. And that would be Fire Emblem Awakening.
Yes. Yes, boy.
Just one of my absolute favorites, mostly because just instead of being kind of stratospheric like a lot of the previous Fire Emblem games have been, this one was just a little bit more accessible. And it was great because I had bought the limited edition Fire Emblem 3DS, the one that was in blue and had the falchion emblem on it and everything. So that was literally my first game for the system. And the accessibility was great, mostly because of the fact that just when I bought it, I had just started my first IT job, and just with the ability of being able to sort of play casually during the slow periods of work, it was really nice to have. And just being able to suspend the system quickly to kind of work on a work ticket and then just go, "Okay, cool, things are dead. Let me crunch out a map or two and just keep on going." Yeah. It was just a lot of fun.
Oh yeah. I was a big Fire Emblem fan before Awakening, And when I heard that they were making it easier or they were making it more accessible, I was one of those assholes who were like, oh, they're going to water down Fire Emblem. Oh, God. And I remember playing we were on the other podcast when this came out. And I remember when talking about the game, people were like saying, who would play this game classically? Like where if a unit died, you no longer have access to that unit. It's dead. And I was like, I play it that way. That's how Fire Emblem has always been. I loved playing Fire Emblem Awakening that way. I then played it again without it and had fun too. But I loved Awakening for its story, for its characters. Such a good game. It was the game that instantly, when I bought the 3DS, I was like, $200 for an upgraded DS? I don't know. Then I played that game, and I was like, all right, Ultimate, it was worth it right away. Like, I loved the game so much. Such a good game. Any other games that you wanted to talk about on the 3DS, or?
Oh, I'd have to think about it for a moment.
Fire Emblem Awakening would be my favorite too, so I'm gonna agree with you there. I also want to mention Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. I think that, except for Pokemon Blue and Red, is the best Pokemon that's been made so far. Like, that game was so much fun. Had a lot of it had a lot of cool Pokemon characters. It had a great map. It was a decent story, I would say, for a Pokemon game. It was a lot of fun. I put a lot of hours into that game, so I had a blast playing that. And then Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds. A Link to the Past is my favorite Legend of Zelda, and when it was announced they were doing a sequel to that game, I was stoked. I was so excited, and I was not disappointed. It is my second favorite Zelda, aside from A Link to the Past. So, man, that was a great game too. So, yeah, 3DS has a lot of interesting, really good games. So, I would look at Kirby Planet Robobot. Etrian Odyssey was perfect for the 3DS. I loved Etrian Odyssey. So yeah, like, the 3DS was a really good system. So
Yeah.
if you're collecting for it now, would it be a good time now? Are they still cheap, or are they starting to raise in price now?
Unfortunately, some of the games that got physical print copies are starting to climb up in price. I can only say I know this as of recently because just I decided to purchase up some of the Pokemon games that I missed out on 3DS and everything, and yeah, prices are starting to go up. So
the Pokemon games always raise in price right away. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, if there's any sort of rare games that you want on 3DS, for anyone listening, I would advise you to buy it as soon as you can. If you have to have a physical copy, but if you don't mind dealing with the eShop and everything, then just go through the eShop and get a digital if possible.
Yeah.
Personally, one of the other games that I had a lot of fun in, and I would love to see this one being remade on Switch with a little bit more modern control sensibilities. Kid Icarus Uprising.
Oh my god. I had the hardest time playing that game. And it was mainly because I couldn't get the stand that came with it when it originally came out.
Yep.
Like, they did a limited print copy of that, and with the stand. So when I finally bought it, I guess I'll try it out. I had the hardest time playing that game.
Yeah, I have my stand somewhere buried in my box of stuff when I moved to my new house.
Yeah.
But yeah, just I can play the game for limited amounts of time without the stand, but my god, my hands will cramp the hell up.
It is such a weird control system. But yeah, it would probably be smart for them to probably re-release that on the Switch, because I could see a lot of people being interested in that game.
Oh
especially
yeah.
especially since people who actually played through the game actually really liked it. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
and just I think with just a modern day control scheme using two analog sticks and everything, I think it would just be an absolute treat to play. So yeah, that's one game that I'd love to spotlight on. And these next two that I'm about to mention, um, yeah, they're on other systems, but there's a really special reason that I'm going to mention them, and that would be Ocarina of Time 3D and Majora's Mask 3D.
Okay.
And the big reason I mention these being ones to get is that they have a massive quality of life change by using the lower screen. So, in Ocarina of Time, the lower screen is used kind of like as the pause menu screen in the original N64 version. So you can do all of your like sub weapon management and other management really quick with the touchscreen and everything. So a lot of fun there. But the idea was expanded upon even further by Grezzo, being the folks who worked on this. This and also Majora's Mask 3D is they expanded the functionality even more in Majora's Mask that they added a new item to Majora's Mask, which is called the Bomber's Notebook. And the Bomber's Notebook essentially takes notes of all the significant events that happen in the game, so you can basically sort of plan your way through the game instead of having to kind of memorize the cycles or keep a notepad handy and just kind of note a certain sequence of tasks that you have to do in order to get to the ending and everything. And just a super cool feature. Just, if anything, it was one of those things that I'm just surprised that no one had ever thought of it before as a feature to add to Majora's Mask. So yeah, just really cool feature that I thought was just really unique to add. But yeah, the games play fine, and the 3D effect is kind of a cute little thing to play with. But yeah, just overall, I would give kind of a special mention to those two games, just mostly because of the additional functionality that the lower touchscreen provides.
Okay. Favorite Wii U game?
Favorite Wii U game? Ooh, that might be a little tough.
Is it tough because is it tough because there weren't that many good games, or because now most of them are on the Switch?
It's tough because some of the games got ported to Switch, but then you've also got some games that were quite beloved, but unfortunately a bit orphaned on the Wii U.
Yeah.
One of the first ones that comes to mind is Xenoblade Chronicles X. Just really fun, really unique. Unfortunately, is trapped on the Wii U.
I've heard that it's an incredibly long game, but I've heard it's actually the best of these Xenoblade Chronicles games. Is that true?
It really kind of depends on who you ask. Okay. Just one I thought was really good. Two, Xenoblade Chronicles X was unique because it had sort of a city management element to it, where you're kind of mining for resources, collecting herbs, and trying to help some of the bigger cities with some of the issues that the towns and cities have. And then, of course, later on in the game, you get to fly your ship around as a giant mech and fight monsters in it and everything. So, really fun. And some people found it interesting because you also get to make your own character and everything. So there's that. But yeah, just... And then, of course, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, some people don't like it because it went kind of heavy into the anime aesthetic, but I think Chronicles 2 is plenty fun, but that's my personal take on it.
Okay. I gotta be honest, my favorites are pretty much either have sequels already or they're on Switch. So even if you're one of those people who are like, oh, I'm going to get a Wii U and buy some games, you might as well just get a Switch at this point, except for maybe Xenoblade Chronicles X, which I'm surprised that they haven't put that on Switch yet. But anyway, Pikmin 3, I think, would be one that I would say was really good on the Wii U, but that's on Switch. So, and I think the Switch version runs a little bit better. So there's that.
Also, there was one that was great on Switch, but it has since been ported to everything now. Fatal Frame: Maiden of Blackwater.
Oh yeah, I've heard that's a pretty good game. Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze is a really good game. That's on Switch. So if you want to play that, the Switch version's fine. I guess the favorite I have is Splatoon. And even though it is my favorite, I would also say just get Splatoon 2, or when Splatoon 3 comes out, get that, because it's better than Splatoon 1. So, yeah, that's awkward. It just seems like everything that was on Wii U, with the exception of your favorite game, they're on Switch or elsewhere now. So like even Bayonetta 2, like Bayonetta 2 was on Wii U, and that was really good, but it's on Switch now. So there's no point in playing that on the Wii U.
Yeah, and then you've also got Twilight Princess HD, which is one of the few ways to play a version of the game that plays nicely with modern day TVs, and also Wind Waker HD as well too.
Yeah, no, yeah, those two, and there are apparently they are very good versions of that game. So if you want them, like if you really want to play them, you need a Wii U. So there's that. The NES remix games are fun. I wouldn't buy a whole system to get them, but they are fun. So if you can buy a physical copy of that, they're good. Tokyo Mirage Sessions, that's on on Switch. Captain Toad, that's on Switch. Like, yeah, I mean, it's hard to get annoyed by it closing down when pretty much all of their games are on Switch now. Hyrule Warriors is another one. That's on Switch. My God, what was there was one that I saw. The SteamWorld games, SteamWorld Dig, SteamWorld Heist. They're on Switch. Axiom Verge is on Switch. Yeah, like New Super Mario Brothers. That's on Switch.
And Super Luigi U as well too.
That's on Switch. Yep. Yeah, with the Wonderful 101's on Switch. Yeah, like. Yeah, the Wii U had some good games, but the problem now is that you can get them elsewhere. So even if you are one of those who I'm going to collect Wii U games, there's good Wii U games. Sure.
I will mention one that deserves a special mention, but only because of how awful it is.
What's that?
Devil's Third.
Yep, okay.
Yes.
Okay. And they're never going to port that to the Switch. So if you must spend gobs of money to get a copy of that, yeah, knock yourself out. But Super Mario Maker is another one that you know what, I will say this: Super Mario Maker worked really well, I think best on the Wii U, because you had the extra screen on the gamepad. So I will give that then, because playing it on Switch is okay, but I'd prefer it to have two screens. But you can't. So anyway, that works, I guess. Yeah. Well, with that, that'll be the end of this episode of the Capital Games Podcast. Tune in next week. We talk about the going-ons and happenings in the game industry. I'm the Wiz.
And I'm Zero.
And we'll talk to you next week.